Welcome back. In our last explainer, we dove into the science of the amygdala hijack. You know, that moment when your emotions completely take the driver's seat. Well, understanding what it is one thing, but actually spotting it as it's happening inside you, that's a whole other ballgame. And that's exactly why today we're laying the groundwork for all of emotional intelligence, self-awareness.
So, let me start by asking you a question. Just for yourself, think about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how self-aware would you say you are? Got a number in your head? Most of us, if we're being honest, probably rate ourselves pretty highly, right? Maybe a solid 8, even a 9? Well, get ready for a bit of a reality check. Take a look at this. According to research by organizational psychologist Tasha Eurich, a whopping 95% of people think they're self-aware. But here's the kicker. The actual number of people who truly are is somewhere between 10 and 15%. Let that sink in. That is a massive, massive gap. It means that for most of us, there's a huge blind spot between who we believe we are and how we're actually showing up in the world. So today, we're going to close that gap. Here's our roadmap. We'll explore that awareness gap, learn how to read our own emotional dashboard, understand why this is the true cornerstone of EI, get our hands on a practical self-awareness toolkit, and finally, chart the path forward.
Okay, first up, reading your emotional dashboard. Because, real self-awareness isn't just about being able to say, I'm happy or I'm sad. It goes so much deeper than that.
And this right here perfectly shows the difference. On the one hand, you have surface awareness. I feel angry. Okay, it's a label, but what can you really do with that? Not much. But then look at the other side, deep awareness. This is where the magic happens. It's not just anger, it's feeling disrespected. Why? Because my expertise was questioned. And look, I can even feel it in my body. My jaw is clenching. That is the kind of detail that gives you real power.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it?
Think about it. We've all been there. You come home after a long day at work, you're feeling a bit irritable, and you end up snapping at your partner or your kids over something tiny. The surface feeling is just annoyance. But the real cause? It's probably leftover stress from that project that blew up at 4 p.m. Your internal dashboard was blinking red, but you weren't reading the code.
And when we don't read that code, we get something called emotional leakage. You see, those unprocessed feelings, the stress, the frustration, they don't just disappear. They have to go somewhere. And so they leak out sideways and end up splashing all over people who had absolutely nothing to do with what caused them in the first place. Self-awareness is what allows you to find the source of the leak and fix it.
So, let's zoom out and see how this all fits into the bigger picture of emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, the expert in this field, calls self-awareness the cornerstone skill. And there's a really good reason for that. It really boils down to this simple, undeniable truth. You cannot manage or regulate an emotion that you don't even know you're having. It's the first domino. It has to fall before anything else can happen. Without awareness, skills like self-regulation, empathy, even social skills, they're basically impossible to build. Think about it. How can you empathize with someone else's feelings if you can't even identify what's going on inside of you?
Let me tell you a story that brings this to life. There was a manager, we'll call her Sarah. Absolutely brilliant, super driven, a strategic genius. But whenever deadlines got tight, her anxiety would spike, and it would come out as this really sharp, dismissive tone with her team. In her own head, she was just being focused, but to her team, she was completely crushing their psychological safety. They felt intimidated and afraid to speak up, and she had no idea.
And then came her wake-up call. The company did an anonymous 360-degree feedback review, and the message from her team was crystal clear. It's like you're inside a jar, and you can't read the label on the outside. Sometimes this kind of external feedback is the only way to get a glimpse of what that label actually says.
The best part of this story is what Sarah did next. She didn't get defensive. She got curious. She started an emotion journal to track what was going on, and pretty soon she spotted a pattern. The stress, the sharp tone, it always peaked around 3 p.m. That was the trigger. And once she had that awareness, the solution was actually simple. She started proactively blocking 30 minutes on her calendar right before then, just to breathe and reset. Awareness led straight to action, and it totally changed her team's dynamic.
Which brings us to the most important part of our whole conversation today, your toolkit. We've covered the what and the why, so now let's get into the how. These are practical things you can start doing like today to observe your inner world.
Okay, two of the most powerful tools are mindfulness and journaling. Mindfulness doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a simple 30-second body scan. In fact, let's just do one right now. Pause for a second. Notice
Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders creeping up towards your ears? Your body is an incredible early warning system. And then there's journaling. This is like creating a data log of your mind. By writing down what you feel and what was happening when you felt it, you become a detective, spotting those triggers and patterns you'd normally just miss.
Now, as you start doing this, there is one thing that is absolutely critical. You have to adopt the right mindset. This is not about self-criticism. The goal isn't to find things wrong with yourself and then beat yourself up over them. No. The goal is to swap judgment for curiosity. So instead of thinking, ugh, I'm a bad person for feeling jealous, you shift to, that's interesting. I felt jealous in that moment. What insecurity did that poke? You want to be a scientist of your own experience, not a judge.
All right, let's make this super, super actionable. Here is a simple plan you can start this week. First, name it to tame it. Get really specific with your words. You're not just mad. Are you disappointed, frustrated, betrayed? Precision is power. Second, the 3x3 rule. At the end of each day, take just 3 minutes. That's it. Note one emotion you felt, the trigger that caused it, and one action it influenced. 3 minutes, you can do that. And finally, for the brave among us, try Feedback Fridays. Ask one trusted colleague or friend for one observation about how you showed up that week. It is the fastest way to shine a light on those blind spots.
So, as we bring this all together, let's look at the path forward. We've journeyed from understanding just how big that awareness gap is to actually getting the tools we need to start closing it for ourselves.
If you remember nothing else, remember these 3 things. 1. Almost all of us have a self-awareness blind spot. 2. This skill is the absolute, non-negotiable foundation for everything else in emotional intelligence. And 3. You can build it. You can get better at this by swapping judgment for curiosity and using really simple, consistent tools.
At the end of the day, self-awareness is really about learning to see the signs early. It's the ability to feel that subtle shift inside you, to sense that emotional wave starting to build long before it has a chance to turn into a tidal wave.
And that, of course, leads us to the next huge question. Okay, so you're aware the wave is building. Now what? What do you actually do to keep it from crashing down and causing a mess? Well, that is the art and science of self-regulation. And it's exactly what we're going to break down in our next explainer. If you're ready to master that next cornerstone skill, make sure you like this and subscribe so you don't miss out. Thanks so much for joining me today.